Governor Moore, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right, so lots to talk about this morning, so I want to get right to it. I want to get your reaction to the President's State of the Union address. What stood out to you? What work do we still have left to do?
I think what stood out for me was that he was speaking directly to the issues that are impacting Marylanders. When he's talking about the importance of investing in infrastructure, as we've seen now with the partnership that we have with the federal government, where we've seen a federal government investment just in these past months of $5 million going towards broadband expansion, $10 million going towards clean buses, billions of dollars to the Frederick Douglass Tunnel. These are important issues to Maryland. And he was speaking directly to us when he was speaking about the importance of focusing on mental health. Part of the reason that we increase budget supports for substance abuse disorders by 39% in my budget is because this is a priority, and the president spoke to it. When the president spoke to abortion rights, when I said that Maryland is going to be a safe haven for abortion rights, the president spoke to us, and so it was very exciting and humbling, frankly, to hear a speech from the president of the United States where it felt like he was speaking directly to Marylanders when he's talking about the priorities and things he wanted to get done.
One of the things that you have said often is that we must break this thinking that in order to win, one side has to lose. Did last night's State of the Union and the official Republican response feel like the president trying to win and declare the other side losers?
From what I heard, and I think it was really extension of what I try to push for the state of the state, is that if we stand divided, we can't win. But if we actually stand united, that we can't lose. And when you look at the things that the president was speaking about how can we actually cap the cost of insulin to $35, that's not a Democratic or Republican issue. That is an issue that's going to impact all people in this country, and specifically a lot of Marylanders. I think about the bills that we proposed in our legislative session. Of the 9 bills that came under for the governor was proposing that I proposed, we got Republican sponsorship and support on 6 of the 9. And so I think the thing that we're really trying to show and to lead is that if we can lead together, if we can build together, then we're going to have a much better chance of being successful in the long term. And I think that was the point that the president was trying to make.
Last night, we also saw the family of Tyree Nichols, who's also in attendance as well. The president says that officers who violate the public's trust have to be held accountable.
That's right.
You have expressed a similar position on that. When can we expect to see some sort of policy issue that deals with that issue specifically?
Yeah, I mean, these are issues we're working on right now with our legislature, and I'm really proud of the bill that was passed by the legislature with the leadership of Speaker Adrian Jones, dealing with policing reform, where Maryland was the first state in the country to have a law enforcement officer Bill of Rights. It was also the first state in the country to repeal it. And I think that was important, and it was smart that we have these type of reform mechanisms that are being done in partnership with law enforcement. But I think the thing that we continue to see is there's still work that needs to be done. It's part of the reason that that I have said that we need to be able to actually have real guidelines around policing stops and what justifies a policing stop, that we need to have real guidelines around authorization within the Office of the Attorney General about their office's ability to be able to do independent investigations. And so there's still more work that needs to be done. And the thing that I think we continue to see, though, is that this work is being done in partnership with law enforcement. We're not going to get policing reform done with law enforcement not at the table. They have to be at the table in order for these reforms to be real and in order for these reforms to be enacted.
Governor, you are announcing a reproductive health care package that will include a constitutional amendment to protect reproductive rights in the state of Maryland. What can you tell us about that? I know you don't want to get ahead of the announcement that will be made on Thursday morning, but could you give us a taste?
Yeah, I mean, I think it reinforces 2 things. That I always wanted to bring into our administration from the campaign. One is there are no surprises in terms of the things that we're going to push for and fight for, because these are things I've been talking about for a while. And the second thing is, if I said it, I meant it. And so when I said that Maryland is going to be a safe haven for reproductive rights, I meant that. And so that means working in partnership with the legislature, where I and my office is very much going to be for and will push for a constitutional amendment. And I'm thankful that the Speaker of the House introduced this, that we believe in this and we believe it's the right thing and it's a smart thing for the state of Maryland. But then also, if you look at how on day one, I released $3.5 million of recently withheld funds that came from the prior administration to be able to train abortion providers. We have to, I believe that abortion is healthcare. And so we have to make sure we have policies that are actually reinforcing that belief.
Well, you have been consistent in the fact that you fundamentally believe that Republicans should be at the table as you guys are trying to come up with these proposals. Were
Absolutely.
Republicans included in this proposal that we will hear on Thursday?
Well, I would hope so. So
is that a no?
I think we are going to make sure that all the policies that we're pushing forward, that we want Republican partners in this conversation. It's one of the reasons that I am very proud that that the majority of the bills that I have proposed are going to have Republican co-sponsors, are going to have Republican votes going towards them. And whether we're talking about health care for heroes and what we're going to do for National Guard members, or whether we're talking about actually putting tax reductions and tax cuts for military veterans, making this the most veteran-friendly state in the entire country. I'm proud of the partnership that we have with Republican lawmakers, and I'm hoping that that partnership will also extend to the work we're doing around reproductive rights and abortion care.
In your State of the State address, you touched on several economic policies: minimum wage indexing, cash payments for working poor, expanded tax credits for veterans. How do you think these proposals are going to have a benefit for both low-income and middle-class families?
This is about competitiveness. It's about how do we make our state more competitive. And we cannot be a competitive state if we have a consistent and generational underclass. It doesn't work. And I don't say that because this is work that I've been doing for all of my adult life. I say it because I'm really good at math. And this is just mathematics. And if you look at the impact that the earned income tax credit, the enhanced earned income tax credit, and what could happen if we actually make permanent adjustment to the child tax credit, we now know, and we have enough data to show, that this is one of the most effective tools that we have at our disposal to be able to end this scourge of child poverty that we have within our society. This barbaric practice that if a child is born into poverty, the probability of them dying in poverty as an adult, and how that becomes generational. And so if we're able to do things like focus on the enhanced earned income tax, enhanced earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, and being able to raise the minimum wage and put it to indexing, we instantaneously would lift 152,000 children to the next economic rung. That needs to be a priority for the state of Maryland, because if we can do that, if we can have more people who are actually participating in our economy, we're going to have greater levels of economic growth. And when we see right now in the state of Maryland, over the past decade, we've watched national growth at 23%. Maryland's economic growth during that same period of time was 11. We cannot understand the distance that we see here, the fact that Maryland right now is 47th in the country in economic competitiveness. A huge factor in that is we are leaving so many people behind and they are not participating in our economy. We've got to fix that and get more people participating.
I want to get to this viewer question from Dr. Jason Cottrell. He asked this: will you consider passing legislation overturning the prohibition of alcohol sales at grocery stores and create uniform standards?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're already speaking with local jurisdictions about. You know, so much of what's happening, it's local jurisdictions, because you have different counties and jurisdictions within
Well,
the
people
state.
often complain that it's confusing and it's
And that's a
inconsistent.
challenge.
Yeah, and it's a problem.
And that's a challenge. And so that's the thing we're actually working with local jurisdictions on, knowing that there is a certain amount of influence that the governor can have on this issue. But so much of this is local jurisdictions, so we have to be able to work in partnership with them to be able to address this issue. But I agree with Dr. Contrell's point that the fact that when you go from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction, that the laws so drastically move and change is complicated and problematic for a lot of Marylanders.
I do want to end on this point about service, something that you really has been really the foundational cornerstone of your campaign and now your administration. One of the first things you talked about as governor. How will service be the difference maker in Maryland?
I believe deeply that service is going to save us. And it's going to save us from a few different ways. It's going to save us both economically. Because right now, when you look at so much of the work that's actually being done in the service sector, the social service sector, it's being done by independent contractors and expensive individual contracts, which is not just inefficient, it's also ineffective. And being able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on these independent contractors is not the way to run a government, right? It's going to save us morally, because it's going to actually allow people to get involved and engaged in our society. And it's going to save us from an ability to be able to build collectively, where I believe deeply that service is the antidote to so much of this political divisiveness that we see. If we allow people to go out and serve, whether it's serve in the environment, serve in education, serving older adults, serving veterans, serving animals, just serve. Find the thing that makes your heart beat a little bit faster. And I believe, and the data continues to reflect, that if Maryland becomes the state that serves, Maryland will become the state that wins. We've got to get more people involved, and not just our nonprofit organizations serving on boards and being able to find pathways where you have for the SERVE Act, where we want every single high school graduate in the state of Maryland to have the option to have a year of service to the state of Maryland. But it also means we have to deal with these record level of vacancies that we continue to see in state government. And people say, well, why does the fact that we have over 6,100 in the executive branch, 10,000 vacancies in state government?
That's a lot.
10,000. And people say, well, why does that matter? It says it matters because it has impacts on our everyday lives, from everything from public safety to how long it takes for permitting and contracting, to our ability to be able to address wealth gaps, to our ability to be able to get unemployment insurance. That's vacancies, because it's impossible to do the work if people aren't in the seats doing the work. And so when we become a state that serves, a state that gives, a state that cares for each other, we are going to be a state that's going to be more competitive, and a state that's going to be able to move faster to be able to address the basic needs that Marylanders have every single day.
All right, Governor Moore, we appreciate your time, sir.
I always appreciate yours.
Always
Thank
good
you.
to see you. Thank you so much.
Great to see you.
Okay.